Alright, what's going on everybody? This is Spooky, and I'm back with another Zenless Zone Zero guide. This is talking to you about the new Battle Tower that we received. They're calling it Battle Trial Glory, and this is new in version 2.1, but it's got a lot to it, so I kind of wanted to break things down first in a general sense, and then get into some tips and some agents that you could use that'll make this a little bit easier on yourself. Anyway, the general way the tower works is that you're going through floors in a grouping of 10. You go through and you pick a battle environment, and these battle environments, you can kind of read through them and pick which ones are the best ones for you. But I find that typically the ones that give you more EX damage or the ones that give you better ultimates are the ones that I tend to go for. But you can read through it and pick what's best based on the style of your characters. Then you get to pick a bunch of agents out of whoever you want. You throw them in here, and then once you do that, then you get to challenge the tower, and you get to go through these 10 floors, as I said. Now, as you go through each floor, you're going to get points based on how you do in the battle, and you also get a multiplier too as you're challenging it, and that multiplier is based on the battle environment you pick, which we just talked about, as well as just how you do in general in the battle. If you take less hits, then you're going to do better and you're going to get more points. If you take more hits, you're going to get less points. And there's even things like bonuses for not taking any damage at all. There's bonuses for comboing certain ways with your characters. There's bonuses for getting really long combos, and a lot of different things that honestly at the end of the day you don't have to worry about that stuff too much outside of just playing the best that you can play in the tower. As long as you do the best that you can do, you're going to get tons of points just by synergizing with your team in the best way that you can. Now, there's a lot of really good rewards that you can get for doing this, but the good news is that you don't have to challenge the tower all the way to the craziest floors. This time around, to get the most things, all you have to do is get 50 total S rank clearings, and you could do that 1 through 50 if you want. You could just keep restarting until you get S rank every time, or you can go past 50 if you get a couple A ranks and just keep on going. Now, before I get into some of my big tips for you in the battle tower, including characters to use and some general advice to help you score your highest, I want to talk about my friends at ldshop.gg, who are the sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by LD Shop, the makers of LD Player. LDShop.gg lets you save up to 29% on Zenless Zone Zero monochromes, internet membership, and other shop goods. It's a safe and reliable way to top up at a discount. You don't need to give any personal information, just your server and game ID. You can also receive your first top-up double bonus and purchase unique packages as they become available in the shop. Here's an example of me using LD Shop to grab 3 months of internet membership. After putting in my server and user ID, I can quickly complete my purchase. Within 1 minute, the 900 monochromes, 300 for each month, were delivered to my account, and you can see on my calendar that 90 additional days of daily rewards were delivered. If you use the link in the description and comments of this video, you can receive additional discounts such as a 50% off coupon, which lets you save up to $50 on top of the low prices. Also, if you spend over $80, you can become a part of their VIP system, which gives free internet membership. Now, the first big tip that I have for you guys regarding these missions is that if you're not scoring well, or if you're taking hits and you're going for that no damage bonus, they actually made it even easier to restart this time around. So pretty much when you're in one of these missions, it doesn't really matter how it's going down. If things are going great, then you just play through the mission. But if things are going terribly, if you're getting beat up, if things are just not going the way that you want them to go, then all you have to do is, see, like there I took that big hit. All you have to do is press start and then restart, and you can restart the battle. Now, I got another tip for you, which is that when you get these missions where they have the boxes, if you happen to pick the 3 right boxes, which can be tricky to do because it's pretty random, but if you get lucky and you get the 3 right boxes like I just did, then you'll automatically clear the mission. So this is a good one for this mission in particular, where you get these boxes. So you could actually restart and just keep trying until you get that, and as you see, just by doing that and actually do anything, you're going to get tons of score. So keep that in mind for these missions that have that in particular, because that's a good way that you can get through the mission very quickly and get a ton of score. You'll get the medal for free as well if you're on the higher floors and you're trying to get medals. So that's a good one to keep in mind. But also, I want to note that here on this end screen, notice that you can actually press square or whatever button it is on your controller to restart. So if you ever get to the end of a mission and you get only an A rank or something like that, you don't get your S rank, then you can actually restart here, and then you can say, you know what, never mind, I want to do the mission again, I messed that one up, my score is not as good as it could be. Well, you could just go through it this way, and then you can restart, and this is going to make it so that you're going to have a lot easier time trying to get your perfect score runs, whatever it is you're trying to do. If you're trying to get, your perfect run, if you're trying to get your better score, if you're trying to combo better, maybe you mess something up, then this is going to be a good way to restart so you can go right back into the mission and do it again. Alright, so another thing that's important is that a lot of these enemies have particular weaknesses. So it's a good idea when you bring agents to not just bring, your triple S or your best team, but you want to have a good amount of varied agents between your supports, your damage dealers, and your stunners or your general assist characters that are going to help them out. Because based on how your account works, you're going to need fire, you're going to need ether, you might need fizz, although I've been getting by without that. You're going to need ice for sure, whether you got your Miyabi or your Ellen or whatever you got. You're going to need a little bit of everything to get through this tower. And so even though I'm going to give you some general advice on big agents to pick and agents that are going to help you out through this, you should really tailor this to the agents that you have. This is not like Deadly Assault where it's so important to get like the right team and the right synergy just to get that certain score. As long as you pick a good team and you make them work well and combo together, you're going to get a lot of points. So it's less about, having the perfect agents, and it's more about really optimizing the agents you have, making sure they have good discs, making sure your supports have their astral voice on them or whatever else, and that way you're going to be able to get as much points as possible on the various enemy weaknesses. Now, if you do get really far in this tower, they have some interesting mechanics that you can check out. One is that they have a ranking for your characters, which I think is very cool. And they rank your characters based on the average score that you get. So if you get into the further areas of the tower and you're always pushing for that S rank score, then you're also going to push the scores of your characters up. Like you see, I got my Yishuan the top 1%, my Jufufu's really up there, my Astro Yao's pretty up there, whatever else. This is not really that important. It's more for fun. So if you're the type of person that likes to push really far in these towers and challenge yourself, then this is going to be a great long-term fun thing for you to do, because it's going to, score you out based on what's happening, and it's also going to score you based on these badges of glory. And the badges of glory are given to you on the various floors just for ranking really high in them. It's not like how it was before where you have to take no hits at all. Taking no hits will help, because if you don't take any hits, you're more likely to get one of these badges of glories. But you don't even have to be perfect, because the tower has infinite floors anyway. So all that really matters is just get as many as you can going up the floors, or maybe restart if it's an easier floor and you feel like you failed it pretty easily. But otherwise, it's really not a big deal. Just climb as high as you can the tower, and each day if you're bored and you feel like playing some and having a good time with your agents, climb a few more floors. One thing that's extra nice about this is because it resets every 10 floors, if you get new agents, you can add them to the squads. So, I left space here on this 10 run just in case I want to add somebody else. But let's say later on you get an Alice, or you get Miyabi, who's on the current banner. You didn't get Yuzuha yet, but maybe next week you get Yuzuha because you're getting polychromes. Well, the good news is that you can add them to these teams later while you're climbing the tower. You're not going to be locked into certain characters like how it was in the previous tower. And that's pretty nice to have. Alright, so really quick, I'm going to go through some of the characters that I have and just talk to you about my thoughts on characters that are going to be really good for this in general. So first of all, we're going to talk about damage dealers and people that are going to be useful to you when you're trying to deal a lot of damage in the tower. Now for Ice, the best choice, and by a long shot, is going to be Miyabi. And I mean, this one's pretty obvious, but Miyabi's just one of the best damage dealers in the whole game right now. Now, if you don't have Miyabi, you do have a couple other good options. If you have Hugo, Hugo is actually surprisingly good in this tower because you can tend to stun some of these enemies pretty quickly if you're going for that double stun type of Hugo team, and that makes him really good in here. The other option you can go for is Ellen, but the number one choice, in my opinion, for the tower is Miyabi. So if you have Miyabi, you should probably use her here. She has lots of invincibility frames, and she also works on a lot of different teams. Now for Ether, one choice really stands out, of course, and it's Yishuan. Yishuan is going to be very, very strong in the tower. Now, if you don't have Yishuan for some reason, you didn't pull for her, there's actually another really good choice, which is Vivian. Now, I don't have a Vivian, but if you have your Vivian, she's actually going to really work well, especially with any other person, really, but especially with the Nami characters. So you could put her with like a Bernice, you can put her with your Nagi, you can put her with a Jane Doe, you can put her with pretty much anybody that you want, and she's going to do the job here. Now, last but not least, another good choice is Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan is a little bit trickier to play in this tower content because you got to kind of play her perfectly and dodge a lot, or have your parries on point, your defensive assists. But she's another good choice if you don't have those. Alright, so next we're going to get to fire characters, and the number one choice for fire is someone that I don't have, but if you have her, you should play her in the tower. It's Evelyn, is the obvious one. Evelyn's going to be very strong for you in these various battles. She's going to put in Evelyn's going to put in so much work here. She's going to be very strong. Now, a secondary option that can be really good is Bernice, but the caveat with Bernice is that if you're going to use her, if you're going to use Bernice, then you got to really make sure to have a duo with her, because if you put Bernice by herself in the tower, she's going to struggle a little bit, especially once she starts running low on meter. But if you got someone else with her to attack all the miasma enemies and give her EX meter back, she's really going to shine, because you can attack the miasma enemies, you can get ether meter back, you can get meter back in general, and then you can go right back into her flamethrowers and you can act up. And this works extra good with Yuzuha, Astra, or whatever other support you got too, so something to really keep in mind. Alright, now for Fizz, we don't have a lot of super good characters for this yet because we don't have Alice yet. But one that can be really good is Jane Doe. And Jane Doe can be good together with either Caesar, especially on a Caesar team, because Caesar can give her shields so that she can just be near unkillable. She's going to be really good together with Caesar for getting you a lot of no damage runs. The other option is actually a free-to-play option. Hooray! Can you believe it? And it's Piper. Piper is actually surprisingly good in this tower, and that's because Piper is really good at dishing out a lot of damage in a short window, and she's also really good with extra EX meter, which again, whenever you attack the miasma enemies and you break their miasma, similar mechanic to what happens in the regular battles. Whenever you break their miasma, you're going to get meter back, and so because of that, when you fight those miasma enemies, Piper's going to get really good because you're constantly going to be giving her extra bar. So she's another one that can work really well here for Fizz. Now for Electric, we're actually eating surprisingly good here because the first choice we have is Yanagi, and Yanagi's a popular choice to work with Miyabi and with other Anami characters, but she's going to be super good in this tower for the electric bosses, because most electric bosses are ones that you're probably used to fighting with Yanagi already if you have her, so she's going to be very, very strong here. But you got a couple other electric choices that are not too bad. You got Soldier Zero Ambi that you can play, and that's who I've been running in the tower. And the thing about Soldier Zero Ambi is that she's not too great at not taking damage, so you got to make sure to protect her, or you got to restart a few times and get the runs that you want. But she can be pretty good here. You also could choose Harumasa, and it's kind of the same deal. Harumasa is good potentially at dishing out a lot of damage, but he's not good at having a lot of invincibility frames, so you got to really watch out and pick your spots when you're playing this character in the tower. But both those characters can be effective for the electric enemies and the electric bosses, but the number one choice is still going to be Yanagi. Alright, now, so talking about supports that you can use and other good characters, the first choice is going to be Yuzuha, and Yuzuha is going to be very good here, just in general. She's going to be good at parrying, she's going to be good at passing on quick assists, she's going to pass on her buffs, and the thing that's great about her is that she doesn't really care if she's partnering with a Nami person, or if she's partnering with a regular DPS. No matter who she partners with in the tower, she's generally going to do a really strong job. So she's probably one of the highest ones you're going to put on the list. The next one that you're going to put really high on the list is going to be Astra Yao. And Astra Yao is also going to be very strong in the tower. She's going to be good for healing too, which is nice. If you're not going for perfect runs every time, even though it's only 10 floors per run, some of these enemies, when you get on the higher floors, do just ridiculous amounts of damage. They really chunk you. And so having that Astra healing is really nice. It's also really good together with Yishuan, because you can have Astra heal the team, and you can have Yishuan spread out that healing amongst all the characters, and you can keep your characters kind of high up there. Another support that's going to be really good is going to be Pan Yin-Hu, and he only really works in that Yishuan team, or he really only works in Yishuan teams. But he's still going to be very good here in the tower because he also has the ability to heal, and having somebody that heals is going to be very useful. Now, for similar reasons, Caesar King, she was a tower all-star when she released the first time around. She was always very, very good in this tower content, and that's because the shield that she gives you, the last hit of it, doesn't care about the amount of damage you take. Pretty much the max damage, if it could be a 10,000 damage hit and you can only have 1 HP left on that shield, guess what? That Caesar shield is going to take the hit and you're not going to take any damage. So Caesar tends to be really good for no damage runs in the tower. She's also really good at stunning enemies. So when you have enemies that are very close to stun, she's going to be very good for being a part of those teams and really helping out. Now, you're probably going to notice that I didn't mention a lot of free-to-play characters in that list of characters I mentioned. Like, I didn't talk about Nicole or Sokaku or Lucy. Mostly only talked about Piper. Now, that being said, just use what you have in the tower. If you play your teams optimally, you still can clear the floors. It might take you a little bit longer to kill an enemy versus some of the other characters I'm talking about, but you can still get S ranked and very high scores with your various agents. So don't be afraid to use some of your best teams. The most important thing is to have as many weaknesses covered as possible. So you want to cover that ice, you want to cover that ether, fire, fizz if you can, although there's not a lot of fizz people that are very good in that tower right now, electric obviously, and you want to have your supports covered. That's the most important thing, is you want to have a varied and a well-rounded squad. So I'm going to show you now an example of a squad that I like to bring in and fill in all the slots so that you can see what I mean about having something that's well-rounded. Alright guys, so here I filled in some of the agents that I've been liking to use in this new tower. Notice that I've got a couple of good supports, Yuzuha and Astra Yao. I've got a lot of good damage dealers, so I got my Yushuan, my Miyabi, I got my Bernice to cover fire, and I got my Soldier Zero Anbi. I don't really have a Fizz person, so instead I've been using other teams to cover that Fizz weakness and kind of just plow through them. But then I've also got my Pan Yin Hu in there for some healing sometimes. I got my Ju Fu Fu in there for doing nice stun. And Ju Fu Fu can work pretty much with anybody here. She can work with Miyabi, she can work with the Bernice team sometimes, she can work with Soldier Zero Anbi sometimes, and so that's part of why I picked her here. But again, you can pick whatever you have on your roster. This is just to give you a general idea of something that looks good and something that works pretty well for me in the tower. Now, I didn't talk a lot about Bangboos, and that's because with me, my account kind of reached a point where the Bangboos matter a lot less. But there is still a popular strategy, and you might remember this, which is using healer Bangboos in this type of tower. And so one of the most popular healer Bangboos is this one, a Vakaboo. And a Vakaboo is a pretty nice general healer, and one thing that's extra good about him is that he only heals. So with some of the other healers, it's usually like they heal and they give some buffs, or they heal and they give meter or something like that. This guy only heals, so it's nice in that you can kind of sandbag a little bit on a couple of the easier floors and use that to get light back, and then use that as a way to push the higher floors. But unlike the older tower, I don't really recommend using this strategy unless you're kind of desperate. You're probably just better off kind of restarting if you've got a floor that you took like way too much damage on, and just pushing each floor without taking too much damage if possible. Now, another type of Bangboo that I can recommend, and this actually is good if you're not worried about healing, is someone like Butler or another person that gives energy to the team. And that's because although you're going to get a lot of energy from taking the shields off of miasma enemies, you know, having a Butler around and getting this little extra energy regen that he can give can really push your team that extra mile and help you kill things a little bit faster. So it's not a bad idea to have something like this if you're not going to go for a healing Bangboo. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to have this little primer in there to talk to you guys about the tower itself and let you know that this is a very fun mode, so you should try it out. This was just to give some general advice to that one guy out there that's like, man, I'm really struggling in this tower. What the heck am I supposed to pick, or what the heck am I supposed to do? So hopefully this guide helps you out, especially you newcomers and you Xbox players. Alongside this video, you're going to see that I've uploaded me doing floors 90 through 100, and I'm doing them as no-hit runs just for fun, but this will maybe help you see kind of teams in action, some of the higher level teams, and it might give you some inspiration on how to play your teams against some of the various enemies that you're going to see in the tower. So if you need something a little bit visual to help you out, check out that video, and thank you everybody for subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video soon. Have a beautiful day, everybody.